Thanks for checking out the Growing Guelph podcast. This week I sat down with singer-songwriter CJ Cooper. We talked about the emotional power of songwriting, the role that Guelph plays in her creative journey, and what it took for her to build a grassroots music event. About that music event, it's the 3rd annual Women in Music concert happening August 2nd at the Red Brick Café from 1 to 4 p.m. Tickets are just $10 at the door. There's links in the description. Thanks to CJ for sitting down and having this really interesting conversation, and thanks to you for downloading. Before I wrap up this introduction, if you enjoy Growing Guelph and want to help support local storytelling, I've launched a Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early, ad-free episodes, you can submit questions for guests, and help shape future topics. It's totally optional, but it always helps keep this project going and growing. You can check it out at patreon.com/growingguelph, and I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. Thanks for listening and supporting independent local media. And now straight to my conversation with CJ Cooper. All right. Well, on this week's episode of Growing Guelph, I am joined by CJ Cooper. CJ, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I know we're here to talk about a number of things that you have going on. I guess just to start at the beginning, and I know like artists probably love this question, but when you think about your journey as an artist, and you're a musician, I should say, here in Guelph. Where do you see Guelph's influence showing up in your musical journey? If it does, it's like if it's okay if it doesn't. Not everyone has to have a connection to their hometown. But
yeah, no, I get like influence questions a lot, but not necessarily Guelph specific. So I would say my songwriting, I think, is an early indicator. My first album was very low key, very acoustic, homegrown, vulnerable. I just only had my tiny environment around me. I'd never lived anywhere else. I had only done little music festivals as a kid, so I think it's very apparent in the early music that I'm where I'm from.
And did you grow up in Guelph?
I did.
Yeah, so you're a Guelphite, born and raised?
Yep, 3rd generation.
Oh, 3rd generation Guelphite? Wow. So, like, I think Guelph has a different meaning to different people, right? Like for me, I discovered the city when I came here for university. I didn't really even, Guelph was not on my radar at all before then. But for you, it's like, it's almost even hard to separate yourself from a city when it's that kind of ingrained. Like, do you have any feelings or thoughts towards Guelph? And
I love Guelph. Yeah. I think it was definitely a nice place to grow up. Mm-hmm. And I have left the nest a couple times. I went to school in Toronto. I lived in Europe for several months. So I've had opportunities to kind of go away for a bit and experience other cities and more so bigger cities. And there's just something about coming home. I know every area in this town, and it's the only city that I can say that about. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, you can always... Well, I think with Guelph, it's like, it has a lot of character as a city. It certainly says something about the city that people who are born and raised here don't have that. You've probably heard this. There's a lot of people who have like a bit of a tumultuous relationship with their hometown because they like there's that feeling of wanting to escape or just the feeling of like, okay, been there, done that. Like, but I don't see that as often with people in Guelph. Yeah. Maybe some people think it's boring. Like if you're a teenager and you're like, oh, I've seen everything there is. And, you're just... Not
much for me to do.
But I think that's just a normal teenager kind of feeling of like, I can't wait to get out of the house and go do something. And it sounds like you've already gotten that opportunity to go.
Got it out of my system for the most part.
Do you think you'll always have ties to the city? Whether or not you live here? Or...
I mean, my family, my grandfather, they're all still here. And I think even if I moved to an adjacent city, I still love performing here and I'd always want to visit and I'd want to show like my future kids all the cool things that I did, which was probably not that cool when I look back, but it's where I'm from. So,
well, I'm sure, hopefully they'll think it's cool just for the sake of it. Right. I should give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the listening audience in terms of, how do you describe yourself as an artist?
Yep. That's a good question.
You're a singer-songwriter?
I'm constantly figuring out the answer to that question. Yes, singer-songwriter, acoustic. Young Taylor Swift was who I wanted to be as a kid. And I think even now, if I was given the chance for her level of fame, I would politely decline.
Yeah.
I think that dream has made its way through.
It's one of those things, the older you get, the more you're like, oh, there's a lot of baggage that comes with
Yeah, you realize
that.
the cons of that life. I'm like, I don't think I want that. But as an artist, I've bounced between genres a couple times too in my albums, experimenting, but indie pop, acoustic, I like Lizzie McAlpine, Noah Kahan, John Mayer. I just like when the music just feels very real.
John Mayer is a good one that I've known, I guess, my whole life. I have an older brother who was like a guitarist in bands growing up, and he was a big John Mayer fan, even though he was also like into grunge metal and like that kind of stuff. And I didn't quite understand why until I was asking him about it, and he was like, John Mayer fans are either like people who love the like sentimentality of the songs, or they're like guitarists. I guess there's probably, there's that Venn diagram has a lot of overlap, but there's people who are like, no, he is like a guitarist.
Absolutely.
And he like clearly puts everything into his craft and stuff like that. So how old were you when you first picked up the guitar?
I was 7 when I started lessons. And I was 9 when I started singing lessons, but singing was always the main thing that I was always doing. There's lots of home videos of me just wailing in a microphone. There's a video where I pull the microphone away from my younger sister, and I'm like, okay, you're done. My turn now. And I probably was already singing in it all day. So
your parents probably recognize, like, this girl needs an audience.
Yeah, they're like, this girl needs a stage. She's annoying me. Put her on a stage. But yeah, it was from a very young age that music was very prevalent, and no one in my family was overly musical at the time to influence that, but I think there was just something there, and never really considered doing anything else. All through school, through high school, I never considered any other job or passion, really. It was just, I love singing, I love music, how do I do it forever?
Did you get any opportunities to like explore the local music scene in terms of Hillside and institutions of Guelph like that?
Yeah, I had my first paid show when I was 13, and it was at Art on the Street,
Oh,
which we just
cool.
had a little while ago. And that was my first time, going, wow, like, this is someone's job? Like, people do this? This is the best. This is so fun. Like, I don't want to do anything else. And then it was kind of just a slow, I volunteered at Hillside, and made some good contacts through there that helped me book like restaurant and cafe stuff as I went into high school, and then coming back from college after I learned a lot more because I went to school for music, I was able to really reach out and get involved in the community and book shows and create that network. So
for like a mid-sized town, it's nice that Guelph has those institutions like Hillside. I mean, I spoke to someone from Hillside on one of the first episodes of this podcast, and I think 2 years ago, I attended my first Hillside, and it felt like one of those, like, oh, this is, like, if everything I thought about, the stereotypes about Guelph could be consolidated down to one small place and one, like, vibe, it's Hillside.
Yeah, actually, that's so accurate.
And I also volunteered, so, like, some of the people I was volunteering with were, like, second generation Hillsiders who had been brought as kids, and then you see that a lot at Hillside. You see,
there's lots of families.
Yeah, families and like older teenagers with their parents who like they, the whole family's been coming for 20 years. So a lot of your music explores themes like love, change, growth. What are you drawn to writing about these days?
Full disclosure, I haven't been doing a lot of writing lately, and it used to really bother me because I felt like I had just this writer's block that started, and I kept putting pressure on myself to write something, and nothing was coming up. I couldn't force it, and then I finally, after having been engaged for 5 months and already living with him, wrote a song about my fiance, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so flattered I broke your writer's block, but also why did it take you so long to write a song about me? So I think my personal life, I've just been living a lot more this year, as opposed to kind of observing and putting those feelings down. But I think change is the biggest emphasis on the new album that I'm working on. It's unofficially called Growing Pains, and I started it in my early 20s, and I'm now 25, so it's obviously been a big period of change with all the things that have happened in that time frame. So I'm trying not to take myself too seriously and write about things unless they really come up organically.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a musician and I'm not a professional writer in any way, but I guess I can empathize that, like, it must be really challenging to sit down and, like, I know for me, even if I'm just like writing for fun or, you know, wanting to do that kind of stuff, that there's like a lot of pretension in that you have to get over when you're like staring at a blank page, and then like getting thoughts and getting emotions out. It can feel, I don't know, like there's a lot of being self-conscious and just being like, oh, like, is this trite? Is this like something that's been done a million times before? Yeah. But that's like, maybe that's okay if it's a new feeling for you. I guess congrats on the engagement.
Thanks.
Yeah, 25, eh? That's a tough age. Maybe you've heard people say this to you already, but it's like,
my birthday was very recently, okay. So I'm still processing.
Happy belated. Welcome to your exact mid-20s.
Man, it came up so fast.
Yeah. Don't worry, time just keeps going faster and faster.
Incredible. I've heard.
As you go.
It only gets worse.
But it gets better too, and I think 25 is peak, like you almost, it would make a lot of sense, and I know I felt this at 25, like the imposter syndrome of it all, because part of you still wants to be like, hey, I'm still a kid, like, you know, don't be so mean to me, treat me like, why is the world being so harsh to me?
A baby.
Yeah. But in other ways, you're like, you know, your prefrontal cortex is probably fully formed by now, and you're like, you have some opinions about the world, and it's easy to kind of feel like you don't know what, like you don't belong in either space, right? Yeah. Where you look at the young kids and you're starting to feel that separation where you're like, oh, like 19-year-olds look young, they look like little kids. And
I watch movies and I see like the parents and the kids, and I start to empathize more with the parents instead of the kids. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why?
I guess I'd say I'm approaching my mid-30s, and now I'm like seeing myself in every time I see a commercial where the commercial is just like generic dad to like kids, and I'm like, that guy looks like me. Like that guy looks like my age. And yeah, I guess it's the age range that we're in now, right?
Like
but
that commercial is catered to me specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so as a musician, do you find, because you were talking about being in the observing stage versus being in the living stage, and there can be something, I notice this like when I'm on vacation, for example, where it can be tempting to start living life where you're looking at everything and you're partially there, but then part of you is like, oh, should I capture this for social media? Should I? And then you're almost like viewing your own life experience like removed from yourself, like an out of body experience. And then you start thinking like, what will this look like to other people if I share this? What does this say about me? Is this interesting? Is this cool? Do I look cool? Do I look like I'm having fun? And
am I having fun?
Yeah. Does it matter if I'm having fun, if it looks like I'm having fun?
Oh my gosh.
And do you kind of find that struggle of like when you're wanting to put words down on paper and express something, but then it's almost like but then part of you must be tempted to like, no, I'm going to put down the pen and just live in the moment and live through this and not try to like intellectualize your emotions into words and into songs already. Like, does that ring true for you at all? Or
I feel like we all go down the spirals for sure. And I think sometimes when I'm in such a heavy like state, whether, you know, emotional state where it's like I want to write something about it, it's like I'm already too drained from like living that moment, and then I now have to process it and like put it into words and like the pressure to like make art out of it. So I think for a long time in the last year, that's what's been hard, where I'm just like, oh, I'm already exhausted from like feeling those feelings, and I have to re-feel them to put them down on paper.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'd rather wait until it's so far behind me and I can look back on it in that sense, as opposed to, you know, it's just a lot more of an emotional tool, I think, in the moment. Although you can get better results if you're, you're mad and you're writing a song and you're angry in the song. And you're like, because I feel it right now.
I think it's a Hemingway quote, and he said something about writing drunk and editing sober. And not that but there's something there about like I writing while you're in the thick of the emotion, but then maybe like take a step back
sobering
and then
up,
revisit emotionally sobering up,
for
and then
sure.
revisiting what you've been able to put to paper. This is just curious in terms of like the process. Do you have like a random note on your phone that just is like musical ideas where things go?
Yeah, I have some that are just like song ideas or title ideas, but I find the best songs that I write are when I genuinely sit down with like pen and paper and I just start like there's something about writing the physical words that just feel so much more real and like, oh, I'm making something right now. I'm not just typing something on my phone.
You mean all those teachers were right in school when they said that like there is something to be said though, about the physicality of writing.
And we do so much on our phones and our laptops. So like I'll press record on my voice memos, but then I put it to the side and I forget about it and I just work through the song on its own without considering that there's like an audience listening, and I'm just working through it. And I find that that's a more authentic way to get it out.
Yeah. And it's interesting, there's so much barrier to entry has been lowered so much in terms of everyone can share themselves now. Like if you look on TikTok and things like that, like it's almost like there's no excuse other than like, just the overwhelming getting going and starting, right?
And it used to be so hard to, like, you look at an artist that has broken all these records in the past, it's like they didn't have Spotify streaming to help their numbers. Like they got those numbers just from doing their craft. Yeah. And now anyone can upload to SoundCloud. Anyone can post a singing TikTok. So it really oversaturates it as well.
Yeah. It is, I won't say sad, but there's something about like people used to be more intentional with their music choices. There was always like the radio to kind of hear what, more passively. But like, I grew up in buying like CDs and then like even during, I guess it was during the time of CDs, but like there was a time where I was very passionate about maintaining my MP3 collection of, illegally downloaded music. But it was like, no, like my friends and I downloaded this and we traded all these, and young people wouldn't know about this, but you used to have to like put a lot of effort into like organizing your iTunes collection and like editing all the song titles because they would all be wrong, and then like uploading the album art, and having like a well-organized iPod was like a badge of honor, right? And now it's more just like I guess there's
your Spotify playlist.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's like a like a really cool Spotify
I've curated
playlist.
it and I've renamed it and put my own picture, but it's not the same.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it's like that authenticity is now something that people are chasing, because like with something like AI, we already are in the middle of, and we're going to be soon kind of just be like in a wash of, you could probably go to Spotify and say like, generate me 50 hours, or not Spotify. You could go to an AI tool and say, generate me like 50 hours of something like Taylor Swift. And for easy background sort of listening, it will do a pretty good job of just spitting out like whatever. So therefore, what's important then is like saying something that's personal to you and personal to, because that's what people are going to want to connect with and really listen to.
For sure.
Yeah. I guess just the state of the music industry in that is a tricky thing. It's almost like there's more opportunity than ever, but what can you, it's not what you can achieve, but it's like even just becoming a working musician seems like a very high bar to clear these days. Yeah. How about you? Are you do you collect vinyls? Do you collect CDs?
I do.
Are you,
Yeah, I have a record collection.
Oh yeah, you have a tattoo
of vinyl and a cassette. I get older people that come up and they ask me if I know what the cassette is. Like, no, I just have it tattooed on my body and I have no concept of what this is.
Yeah, that's funny.
Because my mom has them.
I skipped cassettes as a medium in terms of like, when I was young enough, it was like I think it's because my parents just stopped collecting music at some point. So like, I had my dad's old vinyls around, but then they bought like no cassettes, and then it was just CDs. So the household skipped cassettes to some degree. But you clearly grew up with cassettes in the house.
My mom had some cassettes. I had CDs. I had a little CD player. I had my iPod.
The Walkman
as well.
with the anti-skip technology in that.
I think my dad still had his, and then vinyls actually came when I was older. My uncle has an incredible collection, like thousands, and kind of I thrifted a few and got myself started, and then every time I'd visit, I'd get a new one, and then
that's cool.
Now my fiance and I have, I think, about 50 between us, so it's
dangerous.
It's small, but it's growing.
It's a slippery slope, and then
like I don't know where we're gonna store them all.
Just dedicate like a room to it eventually.
Full room.
The nice thing about vinyls in comparison to Spotify is the intentionality that it takes of like, no, we're going to listen to this whole thing.
Yes.
You can't skip songs. You can't like...
Shuffle.
Yeah. You just put it in and you enjoy it from beginning to end.
The way the artist intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, like when you're crafting an album, how does that go? Like what does an album mean to you in terms of... Because I've heard people talk about like, is the album still important for modern music, or is it just like because everyone... like with streaming and things like that?
Yeah, there's some like singles that people
release
exactly. That are, like, hits. I think when I was younger, I just assumed the marker of an artist was albums because that's what I grew up on. And I feel like so much has shifted in the last, I don't know, 15 years for sure, that I've been consciously aware of. And for me, an album is telling a story because I can release these puzzle pieces of songs that you enjoy, but then I get to piece it all together and show you what the full picture is. And I think that's what I love about listening to an album, especially for, I think, more intentional artists like a Noah Kahan or Liz McAlpine. Like, I'm obviously, those are my favorites. Because when you listen to it, you learn bits about them and you kind of get a deeper look into their personal lives. And I feel like with a lot of pop albums these days where it's just... I love Sabrina Carpenter. This is not a hate to Sabrina Carpenter. I love her. But, you know, so many of her songs now follow the same themes, the same type of music, very pop. So I feel like in an album, I don't really know much about her. Like, I know the references to pop culture and other celebrities and people, but I'm not really that invested because she hasn't given us that much depth. Yeah. So I feel like I miss when people do like story albums and there's a full concept and everything flows, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do in my new album in a way that I didn't really understand for my last two albums. Yeah,
so this is your third album?
Yeah.
Do you remember like what are some of the first albums that you remember in your youth, like making a big impact on you? Like whether it doesn't even have to be an album that, you know, you think of as, it doesn't have to be like your favorite or your best, but like for example, when I remember being in like 7th, 8th grade, when I first was getting into like Pink Floyd, and it's like, oh, like the idea of a concept album. I mean, I guess that's what you were saying, right? Yeah. Like with more, like, telling a story specific. And like you listen to something like Pink Floyd's The Wall, and it's like, oh, like this is a whole like concept album unto itself. It tells a story from beginning to end, but each song tells a story within each song as well, and it's kind of important to take it in as an album. But some of those songs were radio singles on their own, and some people didn't even know the full story of it, but it didn't matter because it, like, do you remember any albums that made an impact for you? Yeah, I don't think I really paid as much attention until I got to high school. Like when I was a kid, I, consumed music and media, but I wasn't thinking that deeply about it yet. Yeah. And I think kind of early high school, I would listen to, I can't keep saying Lizzie McAlpine, but I'm obsessed with her, but it's like my only example. No, that's okay. Yeah. If that's, sorry, her name is Lizzie McAlpine. McAlpine? Okay. So she has the song Ceilings, went really viral recently, and she was on Jimmy Fallon. Okay. I think she's like a well-hidden secret, but she's still... She's famous, but in her own way. Like, she's very low-key. It's so hard with media these days because we're like those, there's never going to be the, I shouldn't say never, but the Taylor Swifts of the world are fewer and further between.
Yeah.
And even like a Taylor Swift isn't like the monolith in culture that, say, like Michael Jackson was in the 80s,
Right.
where everyone knows them.
Right.
And nowadays, like, someone can be huge within their specific sub
Yeah.
genre or subculture,
Yeah.
but
Like,
outside of that they could be like unknown.
yeah. Like Lizzie specifically, I'd say caters to emotional young women. So you probably aren't the, the subcategory or
Yeah.
or subculture that she's pushing her songs out to, because they're written from her point of view for her point of view, right? So like I relate to every single emotion in all of her songs, because I'm like, because you are a young girl the same age as me, so we're probably having fairly similar life experiences in this sense.
As a musician, is it tough to, like, do you find yourself consciously trying to avoid emulating your musical idols too much? Or do you sometimes like,
Yeah,
like how do you balance that act?
I think that's an interesting question, because sometimes I do worry when I'm writing stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm influenced, by this song that I heard and I liked that line or I liked that chord or whatever the case is. And I think it's a good blueprint to jump off of, but I think subconsciously you make your own spin on it without even trying. Like, I was listening to Noah Kahn the other day and I showed my fiance his song with Gregory Alan Isakov. And he was like, wow, like they're so similar. And I said, yeah, because that Gregory is one of Noah's main mentors and people that he looks up to. So his influence, you can hear it in his songs. But then when you listen to his song on its own, you're like, he's got his own Noah Kahn spin. Like, it's easy to see the influence without it feeling like it's taken over. So I think it can be a hard balance, but I feel like subconsciously when you have your own artistry, it kind of shines through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as well versed in music, but if I can draw an analogy to something like film, like directors will often pay like homage to their films that were important to them. And with film, there's ways of doing it that, you can set a scene up in a way where it feels like it's a direct reference to something, and someone who knows that reference will say like, oh, they're calling, they've set the scene up and that shot looks almost exactly like this old film, and things like that. And I guess music has similar ways of doing that, but you almost have to be even more subtle, because it's just
get the nuances of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've played everywhere from local cafes to international festivals. Do you know, when you think about performing in Guelph, how does it feel? Like, is there differences when you're performing in your hometown versus performing elsewhere?
Yeah, it's definitely a different feeling, and I'd say a better feeling.
Yeah.
Playing it, like it's very cool to do a big bougie Toronto show, or like go overseas and do a festival. That's a really cool feeling on its own. But I think the people and the sense of community are the biggest things that you can't ever get that same feeling. Playing at the Multicultural Festival every year, I see tons of people that I know, and they know me, and I know they're rooting for me, and it's fun, and it's a nice summer day, and I know this park. I grew up in this park, so it's nice to have that familiarity and know that these people here embraced me. I've been here my whole life doing this, and they still want to hear me sing. So it's a really nice feeling to do home shows.
And speaking of home shows, one of the reasons that I had reached out and wanted to have this conversation was that you have organized, is it the third annual Women in Music concert series right here in Guelph, and that's an interesting community focused project. What inspired you to start that?
Yeah,
and what inspired you to start it, and also feel free to talk to the audience about what it is and what it means to you, about what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm a woman in music and have been my whole life. And I think when I first went away to school in Toronto, it was my first time being in much bigger city that had a very different dynamic within the music industry. And being at a college for music and meeting professors that actively were working high up in the industry was a really interesting experience, and dealt with a lot of misogyny and just a lot of blatant differences in how men and women were treated. Like, even just within my own classroom, it was very obvious. And it really frustrated me, you know, as a 18-year-old's like super passionate. And I came back home and I was like doing a lot more shows and gigs, and I just was thinking like, man, that was really crappy. That, you know, I'm a student and I just wanted to have this nice experience in school. I can't imagine what it's like, you know, in LA or in these bigger industries where women are very much being taken advantage of and not feeling like they have a voice. And I think that was kind of the seed that was planted. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to apply for a micro grant through the Guelph Arts Council. And I got the money, which was lovely. And I had just presented basically like a 2-3 sentence summary of what the show would look like. And I didn't have a lot of specifics worked out. I wasn't sure I'd get the funding. And so I kind of was thrown into it where I was like, oh, I said I was going to do it and now they've given me a check. So now I have to do it. So the first year was a lot of just figuring it out as I went. I'd never organized an event like that. I'm normally just a performer. So to be, you know, the MC and finding vendors and a venue and all these other things was pretty wild.
I've worked in events a little bit, and there's so much, like, there's only so much you can do to talk about things and prep for things. And there's just a lot that you have to learn while it happens.
For sure.
And I'm sure, like, even between the first and the second year, there was, like, probably the day after the first time you did it, you were like,
here's all the things I would do
exactly.
differently. Well, yeah, you can't, and especially for an event that, to my knowledge, hadn't been run the way that I ran it, I didn't have a lot to go off of. My future sister-in-law, she works at a shelter and has run silent auctions before, so I was asking for her advice because I'm like, I don't know the legalities around this. I just found prizes. What do I do with them now? And, you know, finding a venue and finding performers that were happy to be a part of it. And the idea expanded beyond just having women perform, because we see shows all the time and they might not be women specific, but women are playing in the city, they're performing. But I wanted to really put women up on the pedestal and have a more supportive environment that expanded into the community. So the first year, I only had door prizes from local female-run business owners, and all the proceeds got donated to the Women in Crisis Shelter, which we still do. And since the first year, we've now switched to a female-run venue, which was great. And they donated every year, which is wonderful. As you know, funding is
so
not always the
what
easiest.
venue is
so
that?
it's at Red Brick Café.
Oh, very nice.
Which is wonderful. They're very supportive and they open their doors. So this is our second year running it there, and we've raised over $1,500 for the shelter. And now it's really nice because I get to work with the women that run the shelter, and they donate prizes that they can't use at the shelter that I can use for the silent auction. So it's a way that we can kind of help each other for the bigger picture of raising money for the shelter. But I just like the concept that there's all these different facets of people coming together just to create just a really fun afternoon out where there's no judgment. Women are getting to show their art in different capacities, and everyone just has a nice time.
And what date is it taking place this year?
So this year it's Saturday, August 2nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at Red Brick Café, and tickets are $10 at the door, and that goes towards the shelter. And then we've got a bunch of gift baskets for the silent auction.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
You know, I am going to be ignorant to a lot of the struggles of women, especially in the place of music, like something I've not performed in or been in directly. But I think it's too easy for people to just dismiss things as like, oh, you know, like we have equality, things are even. Like, I think a lot of people they think that if they just say that, then it makes it true.
Yeah.
And if like, oh, like the laws are equal, therefore things are equal. And it's like, well,
there's still quite a societal divide.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Exactly. And, you know, the patriarchy, whether or not it's given up like a couple things in terms of laws of equality, like that doesn't mean that culturally things are
Put
even
into practice.
exactly. And even if everything was equal in terms of laws, the momentum of like thousands of years of history of women being oppressed and women having to be in certain roles and things like that, like the idea that all that would just disappear in
overnight,
like two short generate like one not even two
yeah.
short generations, like women couldn't even open up their own bank accounts as of like, I mean, a little bit before our time, but still like
Absolutely.
within
It's
living memory
still
of
like
people listening. So
not long.
yeah, it's by no means ancient history. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, kudos to you for taking a stand to create something.
Yeah. I thrived off of a lot of opportunities when I was younger that people gave to me. So it's a way to also have, up and coming artists that, they deserve to get paid what they're worth, and they deserve to have a platform where people are actually there to listen to them. And I think that's a really discouraging thing at the beginning of your career when you're trying to do shows and you're not booking them and people are talking over you and nobody cares about your originals when you're 16 at a coffee shop. But in this show, you get to have a real show. And I think that's really exciting for a lot of the girls that have performed, where they get to actually tell the stories about their songs and they get to be in front of a whole new audience of people that actually care.
Yeah. I think we're talking about, what makes Guelph as a city, and something that I've seen as a commonality in so many of the conversations I've had is that it seems like when people get some power, very often in Guelph, they want to turn around and share that power. Like, it's not like oh, I'm on stage now and like I've earned this and therefore everyone look at me. Like, it's a very much the opposite of gatekeeping. Like, everyone, like, it's like swinging the gates open and saying like, there's room up here for everyone.
Yeah.
And
because art, like music is art and it should be shared. And you never know who's going to relate to it and who's going to take away something nice from those interactions. So I think it's nice to have that opportunity to share with the community in that way.
Has it been impactful for you to, I mean, you're still, very young yourself, but getting to kind of step up to be that mentor to younger people. And I mean, you've like created this opportunity for some of them. And what has that meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, generally it does mean a lot because I'm very fortunate to have been put in this position where I wasn't expecting to get the grant the first time. And if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't have done anything with that idea. So I'm grateful that, I kind of got that push to create something out of an idea that obviously had a pocket in the city that people wanted to collaborate and be a part of. I had people reach out at the beginning of the year saying, oh, I know that you run your Women in Music, and I know it's not for a while, but when you're ready for prizes, let me know. I'd love to be a part of it this year. So it's kind of snowballed outside of myself now, which is really cool, where people are approaching me. And I don't take that lightly because I think it is a responsibility to, accurately just kind of keep the center of this event what it is, and keep it really nice and community focused. And yeah, and I just know that it would have meant a lot to me growing up to have been a part of something like this. So the big sister and teacher in me is like wanting to share that with people and give them those chances.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find like, my wife and I have been talking lately about, and I don't know how much of it's like a pseudoscience or not, but there is something to be said about people's personalities and like where they sit in their family, sibling birth order and that.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, do you think that being, you're an older sister, do you think that is what laid the foundation of stepping up and wanting to organize something like this?
I think I've always been a very type A, organized, like I have OCD. So that I think was already ingrained in me. But yeah, I've always been that kind of, wanting to protect and wanting to, lift up. And my sister and I are very different. Love her to pieces. We're 4.5 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always been kind of at different stages in our life, but I don't think that feeling ever goes away, even though she's an adult now and she has her own life, but it's still like, oh, but I want to make sure you're okay and you're getting to do things fun in your life. And I think that carries into, I mentioned, like, I'm in school for ECE and for teaching now, and I think that's just always been a part of my personality, is wanting to kind of work with others and help others in that way.
Yeah. I mean, how could it not to, especially if you were like, 4.5 when you became an older sister, and then you're just at that perfect age where you're starting to, you're not even really like, you're conscious at that point, but you're starting to gain a little bit of awareness, but that becoming an older sister and some of, your family changes a little bit, and you get these new responsibilities put upon you, and it's like right at that time where you're starting to form a self-identity. So it would make sense that a key, like a cornerstone of your identity is like, who are you? Like, you're a big sister, and like everything that means in terms of needing to look out for others and make sure they're okay and things like. So I guess that would make a lot of sense, that it would flow into your passions and in your creative work. Is there anything that you've really, what's been the most surprising behind the scenes things that you've had to learn about what it takes to bring an event like the Women in Music concert series to life?
Yeah, I think I have it down to a bit more of a science this year. I've narrowed it down to just like the main things that I need to do and worry about.
Is that where some of that type A personality comes in handy?
Yeah, I'm like, I need musicians, a photographer, promo stuff, a venue, and prizes. And that's it. But the first year, I had no idea what it was going to look like, where it was going to be, when it was going to be, who was going to sing. So it was very much like, oh, okay, hi, venue A, like, can I just use your space? And they're like, yeah, $500. Okay, no, thank you. Next one. But just so much trial and error of figuring out and like finding musicians too, because I wanted them to authentically represent the, what we were trying to do here, but I wanted to have a mix of artists and genres and age ranges and backgrounds. So it was tricky too, because I'm trying to create this diverse show, and I only know the people that I know. So there's a lot of leaning on like community support, door prizes, getting recommendations, like what else is a female-run business? Because when I Google it, there's no master list. And that was frustrating on its own, where I'm like, why can't I see women in the community doing things in one spot? Where's that resource?
I guess that in ways like, it's more than just an event. Like you are creating a bit of that resource. Like I'm sure it's by no means an exhaustive list, but you're creating that knowledge base where if someone else wanted to create or do something similar, they could reach out to you and start piggybacking off of that, of that knowledge that you've built up. Yeah,
because I think it's a nice tool to have. And I know, especially in this day and age, we like to lift up the groups that we're in, and there's so many different groups. So to be able to quickly see, who else aligns with my projects and what I'm trying to do, like, how do I find those people, right, without a wild goose chase?
Yeah, there's we talk about all the behind the scenes things, like, it's amazing how many of those things, like, even if it's just a single line item of like, oh, secure this thing, like that could be like 50 emails back and forth and phone calls, and like just the amount of admin of it all can be almost exhausting, right?
Oh yeah, the amount of days I just spend sitting at my computer just making the silent auction pages and confirming all the tech requirements for the artists and booking the photographer, and it's like there's so many smaller logistics that like you wouldn't think about in the initial idea.
It's also useful for like skill building for yourself. Like, I don't know if you're the type of young person who doesn't like phone calls and things like that, but
no, I love phone calls.
Okay, so you're maybe the rarity, but like having to organize something like this, like you'll have to get over any of those fears, right? Or even just some of the imposter syndrome of like sending an email to people,
and like, who am I to be organizing this event? Like, why me and not someone more qualified, or whatever the case is?
Well, sometimes, I mean, I guess that's the proof of the most qualified person is just the person who's willing to do it, and you're willing to do it. So that what makes you qualified.
Perfect. So qualified.
Is there anything new that people can expect from the show this year? And what kind of like energy are you hoping to create for the show?
Yeah, I mean, I think just based on every year being such a diverse mix of artists, that is what is new. Mm-hmm. You know, they're all going to have different stories and different songs to share, and different genres too. So it's, you know, breaks it up, and it's really interesting. So I'm really hoping people discover their new favorite artist at the show, because it's a great opportunity to really get involved. We're still going to have the silent auction, but all new prizes, lots more prizes, super cool. They're all sitting in my house right now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's like Christmas, but I get to be Santa.
Can you, would it be spoiling it? Can you talk about any of the prizes, or is it a...
Yeah, without too many specifics, because you'll have to come to the show.
Of course.
I usually make them into themed baskets. So we've got a bunch of body care, skin and makeup, spa type baskets. There's lots of gift cards for local businesses and cafes and date night activities. Lots of stuff for the kiddos. Lots of kid toys, screen-free activities. I was really excited. Half the toys I was just so tempted to open up and play with. So really cool stuff for kids. It's a family-friendly show. And there's a lot of yoga stuff and wellness. So it's just very... I don't know. I loved all the prizes, so I'm hoping everyone else will too.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
If you're staring at the prizes tempted to it, then that means that you've
they're really great.
Some good things.
And they're valued at, like, they're very nice quality items, so I hope people will like that and be willing to donate to the community.
And then in terms of the lineup of musicians, can you speak to who people could expect to see at the show? Or
Yeah, so we have Natalie Grace, who's a young up-and-coming artist. She's very fresh in the scene. I think she's 17, so she's very young, and she's got a lovely voice, so I'm really excited to see her kind of make her debut in this show. And then two friends of mine that are wonderful musicians in their own right, Mela B and Miranda Journey, who both do lots of shows locally and in surrounding areas, and they've got lots of new content and original music to share. So I'm really looking forward to getting to hear that. And then the last 2 years I just did a couple quick songs, but this year I'm going to close the show and do a proper set because people were complaining that I wasn't singing enough. So I figured I would...
That's a good complaint to get.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. They're like, well, why are you just emceeing? And I'm like, well, someone has to, and and all these other girls can sing really well. But I will be doing a full set with a lot of new songs that are going on my new album that I haven't released. So if you want to also hear some new stuff of mine, I'll be playing that.
Oh, very cool. Is some of that like you embracing the same confidence that maybe when you were a kid it led to you, like you're ripping the microphone away from your sister to sing, but now you're more confidently like saying like, oh no, I can give myself the permission to I put myself on stage and do that? Yeah,
I don't think I ever was like not wanting to or necessarily wanting to for the last 2 years of this show. I just really wanted to give the platform to other musicians because I do so many other shows. But I also was like, well, my name's on the sign anyways, and you know, I am a musician, so why wouldn't I be a part of it? And
I think a lot of artists really struggle with that. Like, it's some of that like imposter syndrome, or just that,
or like making it all about me. I'm like, you know, I don't want it to be that.
Yeah.
So
my wife is a visual artist, and I've done some like craft fairs and things like that with her, and she can talk about her art, but she is like the opposite of a salesperson when it comes to her art, where like people will come up and be like, oh, this is really cool. No, she likes the compliments and that, but it's like, if like, it would be her worst nightmare to have to like proudly be like, look how great my art is, and like
you should buy it. Like.
Yeah, and I think that's just a really difficult place for artists who, especially artists that like maybe even like yourself, where if you really care about your art, you're always striving to be better. And I think as an artist, sometimes you can really be focused on like the perceived gap of where you want it to be, and that striving and being focused on that gap can be good for progressing your like art, but it also means that you can not be your own cheerleader, and you can kind of downplay like your own efforts and that. And I think that can be tricky. And sometimes, like if you look out into like the music scene and that, by definition, the people who are successful are the ones that can kind of push through that and be like, no, I can like stand on my own 2 feet and like, you know, proudly kind of put yourself out there. Has that been a learning experience for you?
It's something hard because, you know, because you want to be humble and you want to, you know, but my dad is hilarious too, because he always is like, oh, you know, like we're Coopers, you know, like we're champions. Like it's such a jokey way, but then sometimes I have to give myself that pep talk and be like, yeah, you're CJ Cooper. You're the only one that is just like you, and you're good at what you do. Yeah, and I have to like convince myself sometimes, because you can know that you're good at something or that you enjoy something or other people enjoy, you know, stuff that you do, but it is hard to be uninhibitedly proud about it. Yeah, I think
it is tough,
even in a safe space where like it's weird to be like I'm good at singing. But, like, that sounds weird to say, even though, like, that's my job is singing. Yeah. So I think it is a hard thing to get over it.
And there's something about music and art that, like, it's like the coolest artist is sometimes the one who makes it look effortless and also makes it seem like they don't even want the fame. Yeah. Like, oh, the fame just happens to them and they couldn't care less, right? But, like, even if, you know, it's sometimes it's heartening to see, like, behind the scenes that even an artist like Kurt Cobain from the 90s, where his whole style was like, oh, I'm too cool for this, and I'm like that whatever. Grunge style. But like, I think if you, I don't know this perfectly, but I think if you really look into it, like he wanted to be successful. He cared a lot about being successful. He cared a lot about crafting a very particular image, and
you don't always realize how much work has gone into that. Like, I don't care.
The persona. Work into looking effortless. Yeah. I guess it's similar with like fashion, right? That like, it can.
You try so hard to look like you're not trying.
Yeah. The effort of effortlessness is it's a tricky balance. Yeah. But, well, I guess as you enter your mid-20s and look towards your late 20s, you can, I hope that you can continue to tap into that. Like, you just kind of said it, that you are a singer, you are a good singer. And like, if I can think back to my mid to late 20s, like some of the biggest learning experiences was to just start to, and some of this ties back to like self-care and self-respect, and that is to say like, hey, no, like I do have these skills. I do, like, I have something that's worthwhile. Yeah. And that can be a very tricky transition into that. And I think it should kind of feel uncomfortable and it should be hard, but it just gets easier every time you do it.
And you earn that. Like, you've earned the ability to say those positive things about yourself.
Yeah. Through like many years of the uncertainty and the self-doubt and all that. Looking ahead, is there anything that's lighting you up right now, musically, creatively? And if you, do you have any advice for other local artists that are trying to make their mark?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Two good questions. For, like, on a personal note, I'm releasing a new song and video at the end of August. And as of right now, I have not announced that publicly, so you guys are the first to know.
Oh, that's exciting.
So I just filmed the video a little while ago, so that'll be a nice little end of summer song.
Can you reveal the name of the song?
It's called Milk and Honey.
Very cool.
Very fun little, just something simple, but just a very lighthearted song.
You don't have to downplay it. I can already see it.
No.
Okay. You're like, just.
It is a lighthearted song. It's not super deeply emotional. I'm a huge nerd and I love reading, and it's a song about my books.
Oh, cool.
But I thought it was fun because, like, not everything has to be the most heavy emotion you've ever felt in your whole life. So it was really nice to just make a really fun, unserious video to this cutesy little song that has like bird sounds in the background. So
that's fun.
So I'm excited to share that one. And I think it's kind of advice to my younger self, but also for artists that want to put out music, is like, unless you're signed to a label, you're Sabrina Carpenter, you got to pump out an album every single year. Like, nobody's putting pressure on you or deadlines. Nobody is forcing you to rush your art. And I think I have felt that pressure from releasing my first album at 18 and then really trying to get my second one done during the pandemic. Like that one, I think the process for starting it was organic, but then once I released that by 2022, so 4 years after my first one, are we following? Yeah. So 4 years later, now I'm like, oh my God, like it's already been 3 years. I need to get up, but I'm like, I don't. It could take 10 years, and if I'm happy with it and it's the best album that I've released, then the people that want to listen will listen. And I think the mindset shift for me has been, I'm making an album for myself, and I hope you like it. Not, I'm making an album for you, and I hope I like it. Like, so I just generally for advice, like, just don't put that pressure on yourself, because you're already going to feel pressure from everything else. So you can at least cut yourself some slack.
That's great advice. There's such a tendency for, in a lot of media, I do this with myself with podcasts, where it's like you put something out and then immediately it's like the clock is ticking and you're like, oh, okay.
When's your next thing?
Yeah, like the past is the past. What's
right
next?
now?
And it's like that treadmill, that like content treadmill, even talking about it as content, like art isn't content, but when albums and art and all that are like, it can feel like you're like a factory just churning things out.
Yeah.
And for some artists, like, they do have that in them to just make.
Yeah, if you have the time and the bandwidth for that, like that's great.
And every artist is supported by different things. I mean, there are some artists that are lucky enough to, like, they can make art full time because they are supported by other means. And it's tricky because, like, everyone's sort of comparing themselves to each other, and you just never know what place people are coming from. And
yeah, and as an independent artist, which I feel like most people are, you know, it's not cheap to produce music and make videos and promote them. And so when you're self-funding everything too, it, like, for me, it can feel like a lot of pressure because I still have a life. Like, I still have other things to pay for. I have bills. I'm getting married next year. I'm in school. I'm like, I can't put $3,000 into a music video right now, even though that's what I would love to do. Yeah. So it becomes this battle of, like, prioritizing your art versus everything else. Yeah. So that's why I think it's nice when it comes organically, instead of feeling like, oh, it's been 6 months since I've released anything, I need to get a music video out now. Okay, for 1,000 views on YouTube, I don't think it's going to kill you to wait another 6 months and do it when you feel ready.
Yeah. And it's that you're right, that idea of where things are, like, self-funded, like, artists have that problem, right, where, you know, they have to make the decision of, like, oh, do I go on that vacation or do I do a staycation so that I have the funds to do this other thing? Get new merch made, like, or whatever. That's so hard when you're like, your passion is
you're constantly, like, trying to figure out what's worth it, because so much in music you don't get the money back. You're doing it because you love art and you want to put out an authentic vision of what you want people to see. But yeah, it can be very hard. I felt guilty this whole year, feeling like I haven't done that much in music, because last year I did over 100 shows, which was crazy. It was a lot, for sure. A
couple shows a week, at least, right?
Yeah. So I look at that and I'm proud of that accomplishment, but it's also like, yeah, but when we zoom in, I was really burnt out at the end of the year. Yeah. My whole life changed this year with getting engaged, going back to school. I was working several jobs because I'd moved out. Like, there's all these other life factors. So I'm like, I can't make myself feel guilty that I'm not doing 100 shows, because I don't have the capacity to do 100 shows. Yeah. So I haven't quit music, and I can always come back and pick up the pace on it if I want to, but I have to be okay with letting my life also be a part of my life and not having music be what I focus everything around. Yeah. Which might be controversial for other, like, full-time musicians, but I think it becomes a job and it becomes less fun when you put that much pressure on it.
And I think that will really resonate with people, the idea that, like, you know, you're hopefully your music career will be as long as your, like, even just saying like a music career, like it's almost like putting it in the same, ballpark as like an accountant or something, or like their accounting career. And it's like, but like, no, like as a musician, you are a musician and you'll probably be a musician your entire life, even if you could slow down to doing one album a decade.
Yeah, or never do a live show, like...
Yeah, exactly.
All the time, right? But it's always, like, within you.
Yeah, and who you are as a musician and what you want to output, like, it'll change over time. But, well, CJ, thanks so much for sitting down and talking about yourself and your musical career.
Anytime.
There'll be links in the show notes to get tickets to the upcoming show. What's the date of the Women in Music show again?
August 2nd.
August 2nd at the Red Brick Café. So there'll be links to that and links to where to get your music and to see any of your upcoming shows. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Growing Guelph. I've been your host, Jordan Sloggett. Be sure to subscribe to us on social media, on your favorite podcast app, and if you have a recommendation for a future guest you'd like me to speak to, you can reach out to me at growingguelph@gmail.com.